Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Total Dumas.
And I'm your co-host, Austin.
I muted that. And I'm your co-host, Ian.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
This episode is brought to you by a
Yeah.
generous sponsor, Kobold Press.
Very generous.
Yeah, right. We want to thank you guys for joining us today here at Crit Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your rolls don't matter.
Yeah, that's right. Your role's like a fantasy world without deep magic. And there's definitely a lot of deep magic on the show today.
There's certainly a lot. I do want to be upfront first. This product was actually submitted to us via Kobold Press, so I'm really excited to talk about it. But that is not going to stint our review at all. Of course, I'm going to be honest, I'm already a fan, so it's hard not to fanboy over the content. I'm really excited today.
For sure.
So we will be talking about Kobold Press's Deep Magic. But before we get to that, we have our Let's Talk About Blank segment.
Yeah.
We have a question from Recon Ranger MC. And he asks, should a gnome be allowed to use a greatsword?
Aren't gnomes tiny?
And he asks,
3 feet tall.
oh, shit. Should a gnome be allowed to use a greatsword? That's what happens when you don't mute. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Aren't gnomes tiny creatures?
Yeah,
They are.
like 3 feet tall. And
Right.
great swords can range on average from 5 to 6 feet long. So I can definitely understand the train of thought behind the question.
But
and-
I'm more thinking... Oh, sorry, go ahead. You had more.
Well, a couple things, actually. Like, short version, like, rules as written, there's no reason to not allow them to use it. That said, in previous editions, there were restrictions on some races that were small, such as like halflings or gnomes, that did restrict them from using larger weapons. So it's not out of nowhere either in that regard.
What were you going to say, Austin?
It's a heavy weapon, right? So that means they have disadvantage on using it.
Yep.
So
So,
I can see where but that doesn't mean they can't use it.
okay.
Right.
So let's talk about the are we talking the physics of it or the rules aspect? Because
Right.
for me, I have no problem with a halfling or a gnome wielding a greatsword. Rules as written, sure, do it. Disadvantage on all your attacks. But if you're a barbarian, you can reckless attack all day long and still gain the benefits of a regular attack with a greatsword.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so from a mechanics...
Just a really angry buff gnome.
Well, and that leads me to my next point. Todd and Chad actually say, could it be a gnome-sized greatsword? There are some... you could argue that you give them a long sword and just treat the damage as a greatsword as well, if you want to go kind of the working around the way it's intended. Because for me, it's not really about the damage loss. As a DM, I would have no problem. It makes no difference to me if the barbarian is a gnome or if the barbarian is a Goliath. If they want to do 2d6 damage with a greatsword, maybe I just scaled the sword to match the height of the gnome.
I just thought of something.
What's that?
What's the armor that Chiron wears so that way he doesn't get disadvantage on dexterity checks? For wearing heavy
that's
armor.
that's the mithril,
Mithril.
I think.
Make a mithril greatsword. Problem solved. Literally immediately. Like you just now suddenly have a
Not
light
cheap,
weapon.
though, but yeah.
So what? DMs can just work around it. They could just be like, this blacksmith really likes gnomes, and he's like, hey, you there? You look like you could use a big sword. Here's the one for free.
I'm now thinking of the 13th Warrior when they taught like Antonio Banderas' character a Viking longsword. He's like, I can't lift this. Gets stronger. Here in the movie, takes said sword to a blacksmith, grabs it down to a scimitar. The reaction, I can't believe it. We give him a sword and he turns into a knife.
So, rules as written, they can wield it. It just has disadvantage. So, if you have plenty of ways to overcome that, specifically, I always think of the barbarian and their reckless attack, then yeah, sure, you can use one. There's nothing stopping the character from using it. You just have to deal with the punishment. Now, as a dungeon master, once again, I actually once made a ruling that if you were a small race, as long as you had a strength of 18, I didn't care what weapon you used. So that basically said that as long as you were strong enough, sure, you could wield it just fine. As long as you were proficient in it, which a barbarian and a fighter would be. Then what it did is it allowed those classes that were martial classes to get access to that weapon, just like they would if they were a medium race. And basically kind of restricted it to the people who weren't strong enough to wield it efficiently. So, because your melee character's already going to dump a bunch of their points into strength anyway. So for them to achieve an 18 strength at level 4, they'll probably get it right at level 4. They put their stats in there, poof, they got it. Now the gnome feels great because he just put his 2 points. Now he gets to go from a longsword to a great sword. And for me, it's not.
I never really thought of that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, unless you want to argue the physics of it, that it's really too long and it's oblong, but then, okay, maybe they don't fight with a traditional technique. Maybe they just spin really fast. It's hard not to just cut things up when you spin, so I think technique
I immediately
would be
thought,
different.
people wield spears, and you can get away with that.
Yeah.
Spears can be longer than people lances. They're twice the size of a regular people, and people can wield those just fine.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that comparison. If a human wields a halberd, it's still a really, really big ass weapon, though the whole thing's not made of iron or steel or whatever. So
depends, but yeah, for the most part.
And the hoplites with 16-foot spears.
Yeah,
maybe
something ridiculous. It's but
so,
there is just because it's twice the size of a person, even people who wielded Zweihanders back then, in the Dark Ages and stuff, or the medieval ages,
right.
they wielded. It wasn't like they were ridiculously heavy. It was actually surprisingly light when you looked at them. You could still wield them with a certain amount of finesse to it. The swords aren't really heavy, because if they were too heavy, you wouldn't use them. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So there is if we want to go real world and try and make it make sense in fantasy world, there's your
yeah.
connection
I'm
there,
never have a problem with that sort of stuff. Did you have something, Ian?
Me neither. Let me put this back here.
Yeah, I did even though we kind of touched on it earlier, I did pull up some the weapons chart and their properties.
Mm-hmm.
And as you did say earlier, Justin, the great swords do have the heavy property, which states creatures that are smaller tiny have disadvantage on attack rolls.
Right.
And like you said, though, take barbarian, just savage attack, you're good.
Yeah, and so
I mean, yeah, they can use it, but they have disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I've come from. That to me, should a gnome be allowed to use a greatsword as long as they can lift it? If you want to get technical, sure, they can use it as long as they got disadvantage. For me, if it's a big fighter class, I would just hand wave that or put a strength requirement on it and then move on, because why should I punish my player because he wants to play a tiny crazy barbarian? Why should he do less damage than a regular barbarian? Oh, because he's size. Well, a strength of 18 is still a strength of 18. It doesn't matter your size.
Yeah, I've always thought that too. The number is static. The number is a direct scaling to anything. You could have this Goliath with the strength of 12. This gnome is now stronger than that Goliath. That, as weird as it is.
And there's some people that don't understand that. How can a gnome have a strength of 18 and a barbarian? Oh,
why not?
It's magic. I mean, it's a world with dragons, dude. Shut the hell up.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can telekinetically lift things with my brain, and I can soul drain somebody 20 feet away from me. Yes. This is the part that gets you.
and that's actually why earlier editions had negative modifiers to stats out the box.
Right.
Which went away in 5th, of course, but
yeah.
Of course, kind of going off of what you said, though, Justin, earlier, when you said, why should I punish a player for choosing the character they run, but I can, as a rebuttal, say, but they chose to play that character, too, with all the strengths and weaknesses of said character.
That's a very valid point, and
can agree to that.
I can see a DM coming back with that same answer, but I think we got a little bit out of this. I don't know if we answered Recon Ranger's question.
I think we answered it in a variety of ways.
Right. But
I think we gave it, we kind of gave it a good amount of answers. Yes, they can use it. Rules as written says you absolutely can. It's just at disadvantage. We tried to give ways to get around it. We thought if you're your DM is there and you're like, hey, just kind of give it a magic weapon, you can do that as well. You can do you can just take it more of like the story way, which is like give it like a strength requirement and just kind of hand wave it, which I think that makes a lot of sense too, because again, strength just translates to strength. It doesn't really matter if you're tiny or large.
Right.
So
Right.
I do kind of see all of the answers that we did put down very well. So
very cool. All right, that'll do it for our Let's Talk About Blank segment. Before we move on to our main topic, which I'm super excited about, every single week we give away fat loots. We have generous sponsors who allow us to. You can sign up over at our website at critacademy.com, enter in your email address, and that's how I just randomly roll a big random number to pick on that chart every week. So consider checking out. What is the first giveaway we have, Austin?
Our first giveaway today is from Loresmith, the modular dungeon tiles, specifically the Arcania set. Now, the Arcania digital tile set lets you make dark, shadowy dungeon maps rich with the fumes of arcane secrets. So on one hand, you might find the gnome with the greatsword. He's wielding it very proficiently. On the other hand, you found his little brother, who was not doing so well and not wielding it very proficiently.
Something else just occurred to me about that. If you were going to go with the disadvantage, you totally could wield 2 long swords in each hand and just take the punishment and reckless attack and offset the disadvantage without a feat.
Yeah, you could.
I don't think you'd get that. Although, once they start heavy, though, you wouldn't have disadvantage for wielding them. You're not a martial class.
Anyway. Oh, wait, yeah, you can't attack with offhand unless it's light, right? Damn, I thought I was onto something, but I'm not. All right, who is our winner
Unless
today?
you take a feat, then you could.
Yeah.
But,
who's our winner today?
Our winner today is Baron of Rage.
We're talking a lot about barbarians, so that's appropriate.
Apparently it lined right up.
Congratulations, Baron of Rage. If you enjoy the product, please consider checking out Loresmith's other fat loots. If you didn't win, have no fear. Head on over to critacademy.com/Loresmith, and you'll get some free digital terrain of your own, as well as some one-page adventures and some good stuff there. So, Now, on to the main topic. I'm really excited for this. Deep Magic by Kobold Press. Now, first of all, what is Deep Magic? Deep Magic is a collection that offers more than 700 new spells. 700!
That's so crazy. I can't even think of 700 concepts. They just like, here's 700.
It's not just spells.
Yeah, your characters, it's 700 new spells for your characters and NPCs for your campaigns to really enhance the richness of your adventures. That's 700 new ways to explore, explode, manipulate, disintegrate, and master the fantasy campaign of your choice.
Makes me want to play a spellcaster.
And this thing is not just spells by any means, which you've already firmly established. There is a large amount of in there. You also have in there new subclasses. You got a lot more domains in there for your clerics and other spellcasters. And you have a lot of appendices that you can pull from, including magical items.
Yeah.
This collection just broadens the scope of what you can do on your adventures, big time.
And if you enjoy
magic...
sorry, go ahead.
There's definitely something for anyone to enjoy in here with this much material.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, if you enjoy magic and its endless variety, this book is a treasure trove of possibilities. It is phenomenal.
Now, we cannot possibly cover every single thing in this book in our little hour and a half show.
God, I wish we could.
Right. So each of us went through and we picked a few things that we wanted to talk about in different sections. Specifically, the sections that we focused on were the class options and the deep magics, which are like almost like schools of magic, which I think is really cool and how they're differentiated. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The first one I want to talk about is the Druid Circle of the Rose on page 137. Hopefully you guys got this.
This book is...
Go ahead.
Yeah, this book, by the way, is 358 pages in the PDF form, so yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty mighty.
That's what she said. So
It's
what is the Circle of the Roses? Druids of the Circle of Roses use the power of nature to influence the minds and hearts of those around them, alleviating sorrow, spreading terror, and ensnaring hearts in equal measure. They create sweet and bitter perfumes that transmit their power to any who inhale the scent. That is so awesome and intoxicating to think about. Yeah.
Funny that she said say that.
Right? I thought this was really cool because I've seen a lot of different ways magic is used through lasers through the eyes, bolts of energy from the hands, all these different things. And to see it as more of like an aura effect that the player has control over. This very much almost reminded me more of a bard thing at first. And the more I thought about it, I was like, this is really cool because it fits the flavor of the druid who can spring up flowers out of parts of their body maybe to give off these bittersweet perfumes that allow you to push the emotions and charm creatures in a different way, which is just it was a really unique idea to me. Not only that, it's also used to it reminds me what is it people put like alcohol underneath somebody's nose, I think, to wake them up. Is that what they do? I've seen it
something
in
like
movies.
that. Yeah.
Not smelling salts.
And what's that?
Just
Just smelling salts.
Yeah, smelling salts, that's what it is. So this kind of has that with the overpowering remedy ability where you can just, a flower blossoms and its scent can break a condition, which I just think is really cool. But my favorite is you can get what's called the lingering perfume, where now instead of it just surrounding you and affecting people near you, you can surround a target with the gases or vapors that can punish or charm them in different ways, causing like fright, granting granting more punishment conditions for the enemy, and it uses your wild shape as a resource instead of spell slots, which we know wild shapes come back after a short rest. So that makes that something that can be used so regularly and enjoyed is just a fantastic thing to me. Did you guys get a chance to poke through this a little bit? What did you think?
I did.
And just actually, the John hasn't reminded me of the character Ichaya from Fairy Tale, who was a mage that used perfume to create magical effects and spells.
Very cool.
And I actually am kind of surprised that a similar concept was not touched on before already, and I like it. It makes perfect sense, and it fits with the druid.
Yeah, I love it.
It really does. The more you kind of say that, it is a very druid thing to do, and somehow it's just never really, I guess, hit that area until, well, right now, I guess.
I mean, it's a druid that uses the power of plants.
And it's in and you get different spells too. One of the spells that's added to their spell list is one of my favorite, called Confusion. If you don't know, this is single-handedly one of the most underrated 4th level spells in the game. It does such a variety of different things, and as a player, I would love the opportunity to describe the different plants. Like, I would actually probably Google the names of plants and describe how I open up a seed, because one of my favorite characters in anime is Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho, and his whole theme as a fox demon is all about the plants and the flowers, and he does all kinds of stuff, and I would just love to be in that, spreading flowers everywhere to make it smell all girly. I think is how Kuwabara described it. I don't like it. It smells all girly. But overall, it was.
I mean, to be fair, this is the guy who shoved a seed into a guy's open cut and killed the guy, making said seed sprout inside the guy,
grow inside of him.
So...
Yeah, I think we actually did a monster variant one time off of it, where one of the trees that sucks away your soul while you're dreaming till you're dead.
Yeah, we did do something like that.
Yeah,
pretty good.
All right. Do you guys have any other comments on the Circle of Roses?
Nope.
One thing I will touch on, I do really love the idea that it uses wild shape as a resource. I
I agree.
think something like that is heavily underutilized. I mean, Wizards of the Coast is finally starting to do stuff like that, where
Right.
you can use a feature in place of, or using spell slots in place of a feature, which in this case, it's not really a spell slot, but it's a feature to use a different feature over and over again. So
Yeah.
you can really feel the use of your class of your subclass rather than your actual class, which I think is something that is really underrated.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, who's got the next one?
I do, and I seem to kept on. I even joked about this earlier about how it seems like every time I randomly pick something that sounds cool, it's always a dwarf in some way, shape, or form. And the trend continues with this one because I chose the beer domain cleric.
Of course you did.
A disciple of the drought, the heavy brew of fortitude, courage, and companionship is your Nextar, and you share its blessing with those who need it. Settle down for a nice bit of, and this is 95% of the reason why I picked this archetype in the first place, Eldritch Blast. That Eldritch Blast, Blast.
Eldritch.
Which is a cantrip in here.
I love it. So
much.
What is it about this class that really jumped out at you that you thought just was something that you wanted to discuss of all the options, or this archetype?
Oh, I think part of it too, though, is despite the fact that I don't like beer, I've always been fascinated by the brewing process. So, and I was kind of curious to see where they're going to go with it, too.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, Eldritch Blast is basically how this one works is 60 feet, on a hit, deals 1d8 cold damage, and the target must take a Constitution saving throw or be poisoned until the end of the next turn. So you make your opponent drunk just by hitting them with a spell.
I love it. Like, that's awesome.
That's how I interpret it. That's how I interpret it anyway.
That's beautiful. Oh man.
I know.
And it's really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good effect.
That's a hilarious effect.
Oh my goodness.
I like the idea.
Divinity.
Yep, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I really like the fact that they basically make this a person who's like, you're having a bad day, have a drink. And there's now benefits to it.
Right. He's like I just imagine he's got like a beer mug, right? And he's like, you need some holy water, huh? And just pulls out a crucifix and just dumps it in there. Here you go.
You know, I'm glad that you mentioned that because their channel divinity is Blessed Brew, which you get at second level. And you can basically create a non-magical liquid. The amount is 3 plus your wisdom modifier, and the special properties that it gains are you gain advantage on charisma-based checks.
Nice.
Like I think you do
that would be the opposite, wouldn't it? Like, oh, good luck, buddy.
No. You think you get. That's how I do it. +1 to armor class, and a +1 to the DC of saving throws against casting or enchantment spell. So yeah, liquid courage for you.
That is.
Huh?
They really hit it on the head with this one.
Oh my god.
The effect lasts for an hour, leaving behind a warm buzz when it fades. The creature must take a short or long rest to take advantage of this again.
And
Level 6. Go ahead.
One of the other things that I really liked was the 17th ability. Basically gives you resistance to cold, poison, and psychic.
Yep.
And in my mind, I'm envisioning that as I drink so much that I can't tell the difference between fake illusions and. So for me,
Xanathar's trying to probe you, and you're just like, he's just looking at you like, I just can't fucking. I've met some clerics in my time. I've met some drunk clerics in my time. Then there's you, the extra fuck up.
That's funny.
What is this?
And I mean, 8th level they get the bonus to their damage like a lot of clerics do.
The Divine
6.
Strike. Yeah.
You can use your channel divinity to aid and rally your allies. All friendly creatures within 30 feet that are frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. Hope you didn't cause that. Gain an immediate saving throw with your with advantage to remove the condition, and if they successfully save, they also regain 2d6 hit points.
It's a healing channel divinity. That's pretty
What
cool.
the fuck? It's so good.
Can we just take
Additional, mind you.
Can we take a minute to appreciate that at first level you get to comprehend languages as a beer domain? I would think that you would not be able to comprehend languages, not get more.
I think the reasoning behind it is because you get drunk so often that you understand. You just simply get it. You know the slurred words. It's like a different vocabulary set that you're a master of.
That's cool.
I love how they
In
get
that
a third level blur.
I think that, and actually, in the same vein, you can get heroism at first levels. So liquid courage makes sense.
Yeah, no. Thematically and everything, it's just fantastic. I love the artwork too.
Yeah,
can you read that person's name? That's Brian something. But
Brian Syme or something like that. Syme.
Very. It looks like is that a female dwarf with two big giant mugs and a WWE wrestling belt on?
That also has a picture of the same exact mug she is wielding.
Oh, dude, you totally could reflavor like your maul or mace as an ale cup or a mug.
At the end of a stick.
Yeah, no, not just beat him with your mug. It doesn't even have to be at the end of a stick.
I also want to point out that the spells you get at 9th level is Modified Memory, which also totally fits this domain.
That's really awesome.
Come here, buddy. It'll all be okay. Just give them a couple slaps on the back, and they just don't remember anything.
All right.
Last night.
Nobody remembers. You remember what I tell you happened last night. All right, I think that'll do it for the cleric beer domain, which is just awesome. Very much reminds me of Dionysius, the Greek god of wine, I think. So, Austin, which archetype did you pick to talk about today?
So I chose one of the martial archetypes here, the fighter, which is the Prescient Knight. Prescient Knight is the culmination of long years of study and dedication to the craft of combat, supplemented by the use of magic that provides a glimpse of the future or makes it possible to turn back the hands of time. So, of course, a time knight, I'm absolutely going to run at it. Like, that is awesome. Yeah. So at 3rd level, you immediately gain proficiency to Arcana. So you don't have to take it. You
Makes
just
sense.
learn it, book studies. But what's really cool about the 3rd level, actually, is you're able to innately anticipate the actions of your foes. You can take a second reaction during a round in which you use your action surge.
Nice.
Which is, like, cool. It's like a mini haste.
I like that because it enhances a feature that doesn't get as much attention. The reaction.
It really doesn't. Yeah.
That also means you can put yourself into positions where you would trigger more op attacks. Against the enemy, I'd imagine.
I agree. Of course, you get martial casters, so you can wield sword and shield, and you'll be okay. You can cast magic still.
Isn't that a feat?
It is, but now I think it's the Warcaster feat, but they just get it at 3rd level. They don't have to worry about it.
And they don't have to take a feat. That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is all at 3rd level. So you just got all this just for taking this subclass. So I thought that was
more.
Don't you get? Okay, go ahead.
Well, you get spell casting, of course, but there's a list for that, and it's just like, oh, how many spells do you know? And it's all there.
Okay.
You get constant vigilance, so you're always you can pretty much negate being surprised by using your action surge.
That's different.
It's pretty cool.
There's a special cantrip on here. First of all, it gives you access to guidance, which is usually cleric, right? Isn't cleric the only one that gets that?
I think so, yeah.
Which is buffing everyone, but they give you True Strike. Yeah, but they give you one that's unique to this book called Quicken. What does Quicken do?
I actually didn't see that. I don't actually know. I'll have to look at that up. That was my bad. I didn't even see that there.
Yeah, it says Quicken is described in this book. Because it's a book of spells, so I wouldn't be surprised that some wouldn't be on there.
All right, Quicken. Touch,
Thank you.
connection, concentration 1 minute. Touch one willing creature. Before the duration of the spell expires, the target can roll a d4 and add the number to the initiative roll or dexterity saving throw it just made. The spell then ends.
That's cool.
Okay. That's actually really sick. I like that a lot.
Even if you're only touching yourself. Wait. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So if you touch
Yeah.
yourself a lot, you'll be done first.
You know.
So you
Oh,
can
yeah,
you can
also-
buff people. That's pretty cool with the initiative.
At the constant vigilance, you can also warn everybody else who are within 15 feet of you, so they can start taking reactions after your turn. You get evasion at 10th level, because of course you do.
That's awesome. That's the one
so-
where you get only half damage on failed and none on full saves, right?
Yes, that was a huge draw for me because I was like, I want to be a knight with evasion. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
stuck on this True Strike thing. So on the cantrip. So
Okay.
you get the True Strike cantrip, which normally it requires concentration, and you can only use it on the next turn. So would you basically use that as like a readied action before you take an action in a combat coming up, so that you can then attack automatically with advantage every opening strike?
That'd be pretty good.
It wouldn't work
I
if
was-
they had ambushed you, but if you know you're going into combat and you can ready your true sight,
Mhm.
you would be able to theoretically open up with advantage on your first attack every combat, right?
Well, I also think with the fact that they place so much emphasis on action surge, that you could action surge, cast it, and then attack, right?
No, specifically
Doesn't
True
work.
Strike, to my understand,
Oh.
says it's only on your next turn you get advantage. You don't get it within the same turn. I think that's one of the things that makes it suck. But in the hands
So
of
to be fair,
Yep, on your
to be
next
fair,
turn.
when Wizards built the material, they didn't necessarily take multi-classing into account.
right,
Especially when the Player's Handbook first came out, only the clerics got it, or those who took the Magic Initiate feat. So
for guidance or
Yeah,
True
I mean-
Strike?
True Strike.
Yeah, okay.
So I think as worded, they didn't really take into account haste or
Right.
having action surge.
Right.
Well,
I
yeah.
think it's kind of one of those oversights where you can easily hand wave it, saying, "Well, I think that they kind of intended this," so
Yeah.
and you're making a firm argument.
I would agree with that.
Rules
Yeah.
as
All right.
intended.
You can
Yeah.
go. You can continue on. Sorry, I kept getting hung up on that because I was trying to understand the benefit of
Yeah.
it to a melee class, but it would, because you're not gonna. It's concentration, but if you're not concentrating on a bunch of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so
Then anticipatory strike. I can say that, I promise. So yeah, I like the flavor it actually gives it. Your innate connection to the threads of fate strengthens, providing greater insight into the movements and actions of your opponents. So when you use action surge, you have advantage on attack rolls and a +2 bonus to your AC until the end of your next turn. So you're just kind of just almost like in the zone, I guess, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So, like, you're just kind of like extra in it. And then action free of thought, which is their capstone ability. During combat, you can take one reaction every turn instead of once per round, which is absurd. It's that I'm while I can't think of the immediate broken use of it, but the fact you can take a reaction every turn instead of once per round is kind of scary.
that is. Well, I think that works out pretty well
Yeah.
for some of them. I think the Tunnel Fighter's like that, isn't it? I think the
Yeah.
Tunnel Fighter can take
With,
unlimited
Sentinel
reactions.
feat.
Yeah,
you
I
mean?
don't know.
It can be absurd, yeah.
But I mean, there's not enough. That's one of those things that I think is great and can be useful. I've never.
And it's at level 18 anyway, so I mean,
Yeah.
sure,
yeah.
right?
Well,
At that point,
Most games don't go that long.
so I guess the question
By
would
then, you better be
be
tough anyway.
is how would you get the most benefit out of multiple reactions per turn?
you could shield with the
There it
with
is, right there.
The shield. You can just
protection-
disadvantage every single.
Protection fighting. Yes.
Holy fuck!
That makes that really, really cool. I like that.
That was the first thing I thought because I was like, what does someone do on the reactions? And
Other
I
than
thought,
op
like,
attacks, right?
Chiron. Yeah. Or attack, yeah,
Yeah.
but
So that's really
could you
cool.
say? Well,
I like
no,
that.
that wouldn't work. Because that would just use your readied action
Right.
instead of that wouldn't work as a reaction.
But you could ready an action too, and it still wouldn't pull from your reaction. So you could ready an action to say, I'm going to attack the first enemy I see. If somebody comes around a corner, you use your action, but then you can still use your action to protect somebody or take op attacks too. So that makes that a little more tactical,
Appetizing.
I think.
I like that. There's a lot of tactical use for it,
Right,
I think.
right.
And I think that's the pull of it.
Actually, if you also took pole arm fighter and sentry, that dangerous combination with this, you would also
Yes.
you're to my threat range, whack.
Yeah, and then they're stopped, and then the next person that comes in the threat range, whack.
And you
Next
have
person in
such
threat
a big
whack.
range. You have
Yes,
such
that
a
is-
big range with a pole arm.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
I think having Sentinel in this very specific case would just be absurd.
Awesome.
But of course, it's at 18th level, so
yeah. Which you should
by
be
this
absurd.
point, yeah,
I mean, wishes
so
and
yeah,
stuff.
that's definitely
right.
the one I took because I thought kind of the idea that it isn't even them using like magic necessarily to kind of like slow down time. It's the whole idea of using action surge, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yep. And it does say for the spells when you choose them, they must be from the divination and temporal spell list from the wizards list.
Yep.
So
Which temporal is a deep magic thing. So one of the many, many magic types, which I think is a great segue into the deep magic we're going to talk about. Now, like I said, there is so many different kinds of magic in here. I'm right off not even mention there's got to be at least 20 class options here for the different types of magic types.
Pretty big number.
There's 12 different schools, I guess, 12, 13 different schools. Don't quote me on that, but it looks like it, counting it off pretty quick.
There's 16 cleric domains alone, so...
Jeez, yeah. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is Alcamancy. Alcamancy practitioners combine their understanding of alchemic reagents and elixirs with their knowledge of spellcraft to create new and formidable magic effects. Even more than this, though, Alcamancy embodies a unique philosophy of life and nature. Alcamancers don't concoct useful potions and filters as an end in itself. Ultimately, they seek to expand their minds past mortal limits and even to achieve true immortality. And Alcamancy is simply a path that they chose to try to accomplish this. Now, in my experience, alchemists are generally considered like the wannabe wizards, right? They can't achieve power on their own, so they got to make these strange concoctions to get to that point. Like the weird stepbrother, right? We don't talk about those guys. At least that's how it's always been perceived in my mind. And I think that the Alcamancer or the Alcamancy, first of all, I clung to it because I'm a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson, and they have the Allomancy. Allomancy, which is you drink in chemicals and you get different powers when you burn those inside your body. And this class or this style of magic has that feel, because they even give you different types of chemicals and materials that would go in them. So the DM can include these as quest hooks or treasure rewards, whether it's the brimstone, the void salt, the quicksilver, whichever it may be. And to me, as a player and as a DM, that is just some of the coolest thing ever. And of course, spells from the Alcamancy magic list include things like boiling oil and stinking cloud and acid rain. But the one thing that I thought was really cool specifically is they have a few unique powers or magic spells, I guess.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember Caustic Torrent.
that is one, I think.
Okay.
It's a little bit higher level. But the one I really want to talk about today is going to be the alchemical form. It's a 6th level transmutation alchemy ability, which lets you transform into an amoeba form. It basically turns you into like an ooze. How cool is that?
That's actually pretty fucking cool.
You become immune to poison, to acid, and poisoned and stunned conditions. You have resistance to non-magical fire, piercing, and slashing damage, though you can't speak or cast spells. Use items or weapons or manipulate objects. Your gear melds into your body. You don't need to breathe. Your speed is reduced to 20 feet. Your size doesn't change, but you can move through and between objects that are 2 size categories smaller. And you gain the following action. You get a melee attack where they need to succeed a saving throw or be poisoned until end of turn for every single acid attack. And I just think that is so cool. Like,
I mean, I love form changes in anything. The ability to transform is so cool, and I'm glad that something like this even exists. This is awesome. This is just like, it's so fun. I also love you need a vial of acid, poison, or alchemist fire, whichever, and I just imagine they're just like,
yes.
I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna turn into an ooze.
You hit
One
it.
of the two.
You hit it right on the head. Which brings to the other ability I want to talk about, because I mentioned the Alcamancers from Brandon Sanderson, because they drink in the chemicals and burn them. They have an ability called bottomless stomach. Guess what you can do? You can swallow anything, and you create like an extra dimensional pocket in your belly to swallow up to a gallon of liquid that you can then regurgitate at any moment. How cool is that? Like, that's so awesome. And for me, everything I did would involve that spell as much as possible. Poison. What's this? That's all right. Oh, that guy's attacking me. Bleh, and barf all over him. You've seen heroes in like games like Overwatch. I think there's one that Overwatch that belches and throws up, or is that?
No,
that's not
Overwatch.
What is that? That's the Smite. It's in Smite. But there's monsters and enemies and heroes that can do that sorts of thing. And breathing fire is cool, but belching, vomiting acid on people is way cooler. What do you guys think about this?
The bottomless stomach is who's that? There's like a Mortal Kombat character just like pukes on command.
Reptile.
Not
right?
That one, but yes, he's one of them.
He spits acid, doesn't he?
Yeah, but there's like literally one who just literally vomits on command.
That's awesome.
But this is kind of what this reminded me, because like just the whole like you could just regurgitate the exact same thing of it and just and it's there, and it's just, oh god, this guy literally just swallowed a bunch of like acidic dragon breath. Suddenly
I think it's cool because you could, if you ran into like all the deadly poisons that are in the game, like crawler mucus or purple worm, and you can just down this and then spew it on command. I mean, that's just awesome. What do you think, Ian?
Or just get rid of the trap.
I think this is definitely a useful spell. I'm sure a lot of people can be quite clever with it. And just looking at some of the stuff in the spell so amuses me, like the 8th level necromancy spell life hack, for example.
That's a nice one too. I enjoyed reading that one. But overall, what do you guys think about the Alcamancy magic as a whole?
It's pretty sick. Like
the flavor of it.
Vomiting flavor of it. I see what you guys did. Once again, the coolest thing I thought was the inclusion of these different chemicals like quicksilver. It's known as mercury. It's silvery, and it gives you these details that you can use them for, which is just dope as hell. So, I think there's one more thing about the Alcamancer that I want to talk about. So, if you become there's actually like a class guide here for becoming an Alcamancer specifically, which is pretty cool. Which is a wizard school, right? So, I don't want to get too much into that because we kind of already talked about the different classes, but it's all around that flavor and making your own magic elixirs, which is just awesome. So. Get used to that herbalism kit. All right, who do we got next?
Looks like it might be me. Now, as we all know, I love Aasimars, so of course I had to run with the angelic magic. It's on page 174. Knowledge of angelic spells is rare, and it's not possible for a spellcaster to develop or learn these esoteric spells without being trained in these specialized practices. Occasionally, the powers of light make a gift of a particular spell to a favorite champion. Also, tomes containing the notes and experiments of the first angelic scribe still exist in hidden libraries and forgotten shrines, which is pretty cool. I'm going to start off immediately with the variant rule, the virtuous casters. So, of course, these spells are meant for good aligned characters, though, of course, nothing, prevents non-good casters from learning them. But as an optional rule, if they go up 2 levels while using these spells, they can decide if they want to go into a neutral alignment, and then another 2 levels later, they can decide to go up into a good alignment, thus making the character turning into, from an evil character, kind of redeeming themselves into a good character. So long as they use it in non, evil ways, of course. But you get a lot of wards, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like seals and wards.
I like the benediction cantrip. I thought that was a really unique take on a cantrip.
Yeah, let me get it real quick.
That's
here,
the
so
one that says you call down a blessing in the name of an angel, and a creature you can see within range shimmers with a faint white light. And the next time a creature takes damage, it rolls a d4 and reduces the damage by that result. I thought that is awesome. To me, that is better than any healing cantrip, because healing is cool, but they don't want you doing that because it can easily imbalance the game. This is a way around that. Roll a d4. Now, I assume that scales as you level. It does not scale at all.
It does not scale at all. I think they were probably thinking about that because they're like,
right.
Which surprising too, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure with permission, you could kind of get away with it. You know what I mean?
Like, I could imagine the die changing at like 10th level to a d6 or something.
Or even like...
It is a capping of 1 minute as well, too, so...
Yeah, it does go on for a while.
An action cast, that's for a minute.
What else do we got here that's pretty dope?
The Blessed Halo, actually. Because it just gives you a little halo, literally. It is there, so... Maybe someone thinks you're dead. Maybe someone thinks you're suddenly an angel. I could see some more roleplay uses out of this more than anything, because I do like the idea of that. Oh, I guess if you have additionally you have good advantage on charisma checks made against any good creatures within 20 feet. Never mind, it's right there. And I do like that it gives, it has a pool of 10 points of healing when the cast spell as an action on subsequent turns during the spell's duration. You can expend the pool to restore an equal number of hit points to a creature within 20 feet. It is only on self, though. I wish I could just kind of go up to like a tiefling or something and be like, "Here you go, bud."
So it's basically a healing ability then, second level. I like that it is concentration though. So
yeah, it is. Yeah.
A lot of these spells are. It seems like actually
good way to ensure their balance.
And
well, yeah.
And only a few fun spells. The one that jumped out at me was Angelic Guardian. Time on action, range 30 feet, concentration 1 minute, but you basically manifest a minor celestial appearance over your target. And during that time, while the manifestation is present, it interposes itself between the target and any incoming attacks, granting the target +2 to AC. And the first time the target gets a failure on a dex saving throw while the spell is active, it can use its reaction to reroll the save. Spell ends afterwards.
It's basically sweet. Like a saving throw version of Shield of Faith. It feels like. Which is cool.
I mean, it's basically like Shield of Faith that you grant to an ally with an extra dex save throw.
Yeah, it adds the dex save, because the Shield of Faith you can do both on yourself and an ally, but that's a touch ability. This one's a range. And it benefits dex.
And Shield of Faith is also a bonus action too. Well, this is a full action.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess we can't go without saying that what the 10th level spell does, the Greater Seal of Sanctuary. So let's get to that real quick, because it's a list. It does quite a bit of awesome stuff.
Can you just sum it up? I don't want to listen to you read a book here.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll listen to you all day.
That's a lot of text.
It is a
That's a
lot, but
wall of
it's
text.
a radius of 100 feet centered on a seal, and pretty much anything that approaches 5 feet of the boundary know they're about to come into contact with a deadly barrier. And if they try and move into it, they take a charisma saving throw, fails to save. It's 15d8 radiant damage and repelled 5 feet outside of the sanctuary. Mind you, this thing is 100 feet in, so they'd have to sprint pretty far just to like even get to you guys. And on top of that, it is unlikely they will actually get to you.
And it's also worth mentioning that this only affects aberrations, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead.
Yes. So of course, anyone who's like a player can actually just walk in there. The seal does have an AC of 18 and 75 hit points and resistance to just
Damn.
bunch of damage. If
18?
it's described on this, 18. You can't destroy the seal. It is a 9th level spell, admittedly, but it can be cast as a ritual.
Did you notice its duration is for a whole day?
Yes.
That is cool.
The casting time is 1 minute usually, but you can cast it as a ritual. So 11 minutes, and it's just a holy sanctuary that you've just made. That pretty much nothing evil can come into.
I can totally see this spell being like a constant enchantment or ward that's protecting a small city during like a horde invasion or something. And every day a powerful celestial I imagine a whole as much of a city as you can protect, but and every day a celestial like Deva
Just, like,
or somebody has to come
down.
down and recharge it. And then as a hook, the player, the angel or whatever, recharges it and then is like destroyed by the monsters. So now they're trying to find other people, such as the heroes, to find a way to end the horde before this 24-hour period expires, and they no longer have any defense.
Or like it's really like guarding a church or something.
Yeah.
And like or like a very clearly holy place, and like you just look down, you're like, you see these angelic seals on the floor, and the party tiefling is like, hey guys, I don't think I could walk in there.
Burn. So
if I do, I feel like I'll just explode.
All right. I think this is really cool. I love the angel theme. The spells are very very cool, very thematic, and very fun.
Sure.
Ian,
a lot of support uses with them.
Right. Do you want to tell us what you got here, Ian?
My selection was ring magic. Ring magic is the dwarven art of forging metal into rings, often with runes inscribed on their surface, and using those rings to produce or bring about magical effects. Like practitioners known as ring wardens channel their magic through specially prepared rings, increasing the devastation wreaked upon their foes. They can even imbue spells into rings that they or someone else can unleash later.
That is awesome.
That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cross in a way between like an artificer and a wizard, really.
Yeah, but it's right in the middle there where we think about it and all the time. Well, more or less in this one, but there are a lot of magical rings out there. So to have an entire spell list dedicated to it is just awesome. Of course, I think there's a class, the Ring Warden class, to go with it. I think the subclass.
Yep, that's in here. There's also a few feats in regards to this archetype too.
Yeah.
Spell.
And it's really cool because sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Because the one I'm looking at is called Bitter Chains. And I've got one of those. I love you, sweetheart. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like obviously, like a spell component for a lot of the spells here involve rings that are of various values that has to be crafted. And I actually kind of like the cantrip that this class can get too.
Hell yeah, it's awesome.
Hoarfrost, which is a casting time as a bonus action touch, lasts for a minute, and it's not concentration. Basically, any melee weapon you're holding is imbued with cold. For the duration, the weapon becomes magical and deals an extra 1d4 cold damage on a successful hit.
it's just free, like it's free real estate. You just turn your sword into a cold sword.
But it's not just yours. It's a bonus action, and it lasts 1 minute without concentration. You can run around touching everyone's swords and buffing them up. That is cool.
That's awesome.
And the damage scales as you level up too, so.
Yep. That is really, really
you can
sweet.
get so much utility out of the spell.
Yeah. Holy cow.
There's
especially if you're like playing a campaign where there's limited magical items. A lot of higher level creatures have resistance to non-magical attacks or physicals, and this kind of helps you bypass that.
Yeah. Damn.
The Circle of Wind first level spell is pretty cool. It's got a duration of 8 hours, but it only affects self. But for a duration, it basically you're circled by a magical wind or a mild vortex that gives a +2 bonus to armor class against range attacks. You also have advantage on saving throws against extreme environmental heat and harmful gases, vapors, and inhaled poisons. I think that's pretty cool. Because it's basically a ring of wind that follows you. So it's not a typical ring as you would think around your finger, but like a ring around you, which I thought was a nice little variation of what I would have expected.
Of course, we have to touch on the 9th level spell, because, I mean, yeah.
Oh, of course we're going to touch on the 9th level spells, yeah.
Okay, which is Circle of Devastation.
I'm excited.
Casting time, 1 action. Range, 1 mile. Concentration, and lasts up to a minute. You create a 10-foot tall, 20-foot radius cylinder of destructive energy on the point you can see within range. And as we firmly established, it's a pretty big range.
I could see across a mountain there.
F you from all the way over here. When you cast a and the area inside the cylinder is difficult terrain. When you cast a spell as a bonus action on each of your turns, you can choose one of the following damage types: cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, or radiant. Each creature or object that is inside the cylinder when it's created or ends its turn inside takes 66 damage of the chosen type, or half on a successful con saving throw. A creature or object drops to 0 hit points by the spell is reduced to fine ash. And the cylinder's radius expands by 20 feet at the start of each of your turns after the spell's cast. Radius, not diameter, radius. Any creature or object enveloped in the large area is subject to its effects immediately.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the range is a mile, and it says where you can see. So combining this with the scry spell can make this like a pinpoint ordnance. Like I can see the big bad on my crystal ball, and I'm at the top of a mountain. You can nuke his ass with a circle of destruction, and then just leave.
Yeah, and that area is difficult terrain. Like he's literally like not gonna get out. He's doomed. He can't just escape.
The diameter increased by 40 feet each round that's active, and this lasts for a minute.
Oh, jeez.
You have to. Oh my god, you have to teleport out somehow. You have to. There's no way, or else you're dead. You're dead. I love it.
And you get moved, the sucker, but let's be real here. Do you just really have to?
It is every round. Like, how big does this get at the end? Like a extra 200.
It's up by 20 feet, so.
And what? It's 10 rounds. So what? 200?
Yeah. Something like that.
Well, now we know why the casting range is a mile, because you need to be a mile away before you get blown up. It's like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, it really kind of is, isn't it? It's just like a giant, like,
dude.
You just create like this like cylinder of doom, and it goes.
You know what would be really, really cool? If
diameter is 220 feet wide, which is bigger than most maps.
Okay, so just think about this, you guys. You come to this city, it's been around for hundreds of years, and it's this concentric circle it's a concentric ring of circles, and there's a gladiatorial arena. And the result is what you see is left over from somebody unleashing the circle of devastation that started with a pff and nuked one area and then gradually spread out and created these kind of tiers that now is a giant battle arena. And it's all because some wizard got really pissed off and used circle of devastation. Oh man, that's cool.
That's a good one. I
That's
love
good.
ninth level spells. We never get to see them, but man, I love looking at them.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll get there
They're just
someday.
They're literally plot devices. You could
Yeah.
use this as a plot device. You could use the Circle of Devastation as a plot device. You just want to know why an entire city was nuked? That's why. You want to know why this citadel is still standing even though the entire everything else around it is completely devastated? It's because of the angelic greater seal. You know, like it's you can literally use these as plot devices, and players can actually obtain these if they ever get that far.
And I'm not going to go into too many details, but the type of magic does have 2 feats that you can select. I won't get too involved in either one: Circle Spellcaster or Ringbound. And the Ring Warden specialty gets a lot of fun stuff. Like you have like bonuses to transmutation magic. You get some like proficiency with crafting tools such as blacksmith or jewelers. You can create rings to put your spells in them and give them to either yourself or Alex, who can use them later. You can also craft rings onto a staff, which actually allows you to add your intelligence modifier to damage.
That art by Brian Syme, man, that guy does amazing art. That is really cool. You can see the
really
staff at the top of it. It's got one big ring, and then there's a bunch of rings going down the entire staff, and then a bunch hanging off of it because clearly he ran out of room on the staff.
Yeah.
Overall,
We didn't even
yeah,
get to like rune magic or anything. Man,
there's so
cool
much
shit
stuff
in here.
in here. Yeah, there's just really, it is a lot of amazing content. I mean, there's 358 pages.
Yeah, it's
Um,
insane. I'm
so-
so glad that I have this in front of me.
I mean,
And
so,
the magic we did not touch on, I just want to give them a name shout out at least.
Okay.
Is we also have chaos magic, elven ritual, hieroglyphics, illumination, rune, shadow, temporal, and winter.
Clockwork's
yeah.
in there
Really-
too, right?
I really need to see temporal magic and give that one a look through as well.
Yeah, it's really
And
good.
talk to my DM to
I'm
See.
gonna,
I can use it.
don't be surprised if some of this stuff becomes available.
Yeah,
in
I
our
also
I
game.
got
would love it,
clockwork,
yeah.
labyrinth.
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff. Overall, what are your guys' entire opinions on the content of Deep Magic?
Can I go first?
Sure, go ahead.
I immediately want to start off with almost overwhelming with how much amazing content is in here. Like there's literally just so much that you can just love that like no, I feel like no matter what after buying this or getting this at all, you're gonna find something to actually enjoy about it because there's just it's if D&D had a lot of stuff already and there's already stuff for you to kind of like filter through, but there wasn't something that was like accentualized for you, this is it. Right? Like it has like every concept that I could possibly think of anyway, where it's like I want something like this, look through here real quick and I'll have it. Like it's wow.
What about you, Ian?
My big take is there is so much material inside this product that there is going to be something that you are going to like in here.
Yes, I would agree. Can we take a minute to appreciate there's a whole section dedicated to Raise Dead variants, Fireball variants, and Charm Person variants. Like, because,
Yes.
you know, like, I mean, Fireball is something we comes up quite often, you know, doing
For sure, yeah.
hey, instead of Fireball, can I make it a giant snowball or something like that? So they give you some really cool options
Yeah,
for
it has
that.
both in here for changing appearance and type. So yeah.
So overall, I really like. Go ahead.
I literally just looked through the shadow magic real quick. You can make a legion of dead soldiers.
Yep.
That's fucking cool. like, that's what I'm saying, man. There's
I also
so
wanna
much shit in here.
I'm just having fun looking at the variants for Fireball in here, including Swarm of Bees or Screaming Skulls or just
It's just a swarm of wasps
tornado.
that are killing somebody. I don't know
any streets of antimatter.
It's pretty awesome. Lots of stuff. So,
So good.
I think that'll do it for our main topic. We went over a little bit, but I was trying to get us by 8, and it's only 4 minutes, so kudos to you guys.
You did all right.
That'll do it for our main topic today, Deep Magic. What an amazing product. You can buy it in really thick hardcover or PDF. Lots of good content. I think you can also individually get the different aspects of it. I think they sell them individually. Like if you're only interested in like the clockwork magic, I think you can get a small PDF that
like
has that
small-
and some other ones
yeah.
like a la carte. So, all right.
Very cool.
Before we move on, is that you? Who's red?
episode. This episode is brought to you by our generous sponsor, Kobold Press.
Kobold Press's The Southlands Kickstarter is now running until December 21st, 2020.
Southland's campaign setting offers everything you need to have legendary adventures in a sprawling continent of wealthy desert empires, demon-haunted jungles, and vast savannas where gnolls and were-lions hunt.
That's right, we're lions. This project and setting is clearly inspired by Egyptian mythology.
Can I just say that I love that it's very Egyptian themed? Here are enough kingdoms, treasures, monsters, and adventure hooks to provide for years of gaming in the desert, jungles, and tropical mountains. Use Southlands with your current Midgard campaign setting, or bring its cities, lores, creatures, and characters to any campaign, even your own homebrew.
Support the Kickstarter at www.critacademy.com/koboldpress.
Or just head on over to Kickstarter.com and type in the Southlands.
That works too.
Yeah, this is a really cool product. I hope that they already been funded. I think they're 300% funded. So
Jesus.
yeah, and it's only December 6th. So they make good products, as you could just tell. We went through Deep Magic.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Deep Magic. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our Unearthed tips and tricks. Austin, would you like to tell us about our character concept today?
Sure. Our character concept today is the Divine Oracle. I have seen your fate written in the waves of time. You are the voice of a god, nature, or some other prophetic power source, full of prophecy and omens. When you use your prophetic powers, such as Wizard's Portent, Lucky Feat, and Bardic Inspiration, your eyes glow with a silvery bright glow, radiating the depths of fate. Your character is one who offers mystic readings and interpretations of one's future. You may use your power honestly to lead people to outcomes they desire. You may take advantage and fool them with the promises of their deepest desires. Or your power may be erratic and uncontrollable, but you keep that part to yourself. Whether you do it out of the goodness of your heart or as a con to get by, your life is blessed with glimpses into the future, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
It's a good one.
What do you guys think?
I
Like
have
it.
seen your fate. It's terrible.
Obviously, this fits a lot of clerics, but what jumped out to me almost immediately was the Oracle background in the Theros campaign setting was basically this.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so. I wouldn't have taken that idea and put it in here at all.
Just yoink it real quick. Just woo. And even if we wanted to combine it with some of the deep magic stuff, I mean, we got temporal stuff everywhere. You could really
Make
have
it.
fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you could
now
really
fighter.
bring it too. And even inside, we mentioned the Wizard's Portent, the Lucky Feat, and Bardic Inspiration. Everyone talks about all the things Bardic Inspiration is. The idea of it being a fortune-telling tool is just as fun and effective as singing a song or telling a joke. And
Right.
that, I actually feel like that can be a really versatile one personally. But this is a fun character concept. It's pretty simple. If you want to be the fortune teller, you can have a lot of fun. I love the idea of like hustling people on the side or at the table doing real tarot cards or something along those lines, or throwing bone dice. Any number
Which
one of those
never
things.
really get used enough, honestly. You know, the gaming sets that you can just have to like pass time or something. I always forget about them.
Yeah.
Used to be a use for that. Maybe that should be our next supplement. Something weird.
Dude, I'm always up for looking for new supplements and content, so shoot it out there.
Something with gaming sets.
That'll do it for our character concept, the Divine Oracle. Our monster variant today is Neskar, the Bottled Lightning Flashfoot. See what I did there? The origin stat block you're going to use is the Unicorn. We're going to drop quite a few traits, though. Spellcasting, healing touch, shimmering shield, healing self. Changes, hooves become fists, horns become daggers, rapier, or short sword, etc. We're going to give it some new features. The new trait it's going to get is After Image. NASCAR can't say that with a straight face. NASCAR's movement is so fast, it leaves a near identical after image standing near its actual location, causing the attack rolls against it to have disadvantage. If it is hit, the trait is disrupted until the end of its next turn. The trait is also disrupted when it's, knocked out or unconscious or any of the things that it can't actively move, right? Including speed of 0. We're gonna give it another new trait called Avoidance. When NASCAR makes a melee attack against a creature, when NASCAR makes a melee attack against a creature, it doesn't provoke opportunity attacks from that creature for the rest of the turn, whether it hits or not. This is one of the parts of the mobile feat. So. We're going to give it some new actions. We're going to give it Flash Time. It recharges on a 5 or 6. For a single instant, NASCAR moves as fast as it is. So fast it's as if it can stop time, altering its order in initiative. As an action, it can move itself in the initiative order to any point of its choosing.
Recharge on 5 or 6.
Recharge on a 5 or 6. Yes, you can't do it every turn necessarily.
Let's remember this.
We're gonna give it Uncanny Dodge. So when it's hit by an attack it can see, it can use its reaction to reduce it by half.
Good one.
And I want to point out that we still keep the feature teleport that I think it's teleport that the unicorn has, which is pretty cool. You're still gonna have its legendary actions with the exception of heal self. So all this is designed to be flavored as this guy is moving so fast that he's hard to pin down, he's hard to hit, and just get under control. Now, the reason I picked the unicorn is because it has a lot of healing abilities. And so by getting rid of those, I was able to justify enhancing its defenses to such a high level.
Good degree.
Yeah.
That and its move speed's 50.
That also was part of the reason, because it has almost twice the movement speed of everything else. What do you guys think about this?
Man, I'm gonna have to grapple this motherfucker.
You can certainly try.
You gotta just run at it and just try and get it pinned down and hope you can do the best from there. But even then, like with after image, because I'm assuming you wouldn't even know that it was an after image at first,
you
right?
wouldn't. You would just
be like, what?
I tried to give verbiage to the you ever seen in any speedsters where they make duplicates of themselves because they're moving so fast. And the displacer beast was as close to a mechanic as I could think of. Aside from minor mirror images.
Definitely thought of quite a few characters that have appeared in various media over the years. So obviously, you mentioned the Flash, but I actually thought about Phantom Miria from Claymore, who was so fast she often left after images of herself, which confused opponents.
Right, and that's kind of what I was going for. And that doesn't have nothing at all to do with the fact that when I wrote this, I was also building a speedster for our superhero RPG stuff. So I swear it's just a coincidence. So
totally.
That coincidence appear on the.
Let's be honest. I also had fun naming it NASCAR, NASKAR.
Yeah,
So,
I saw that.
Yeah. So, all right, that'll do it for our monster variant of the podcast. For our encounter of the podcast, it doesn't have a name.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was trying to figure out what name.
I didn't give it a name. I'm just gonna. I'm sad. I got it.
Tunnels and Towns.
No, I got it. Oh, that's actually a better one than I was gonna give it. So our encounter of the podcast is Tunnels and Towns. The characters happen upon a small town during their travels in a desert or a plain-like area. Lately, the town has been suffering frequent earthquakes. The area isn't known for seismic activity. The town's structures are falling apart, and the townsfolk are unable to finish repairs before the earth trembles and they topple back down to the ground. Talking with the folks, they are able to learn that the PCs are able to learn that the tremors began a few months back. Since it began, the villagers have noticed strange happenings in the area. New monsters they hadn't previously seen are stalking the lands. They also notice mysterious tracks appearing in the dirt and sand that lead to previously unknown sources of water, hidden shelters, all the while leading away from the village to the north. If the party investigates, they learn the following information about the events. A character with a successful DC 20 investigation check from a distance can reveal that the new monsters to be illusions. Any physical interactions with the images reveals them to be illusions as well, because, objects pass right through them. A character with a successful DC 20 nature check knows that such mysterious tracks often magically form a few miles within the lair of a brass dragon's home. The tremors are a result of an adult brass dragon named Glisvidith the Clever, burrowing underground from her lair. She set up 5 miles from town. She is expanding her lair to lay eggs. Her continued burrowing will likely cause the town to collapse. The characters can successfully locate Gliss's lair with a successful DC 15 survival check. Gliss is very talkative dragon and has a love of gossip. The characters can convince her to stop burrowing under the town with a successful DC 18 group wisdom persuasion check. A character who provides a bit of juicy political gossip gains advantage on the check. Whew, that was a long one.
Yep.
It was a bit long, but I mean...
Yeah, I might be getting a little more
zealous with
into these, yeah. So what do you guys think?
I found it. I don't see brass dragons pop up, and they definitely are I definitely have unique personalities among the dragons in general, let alone the metallic ones. Because as you pointed out in this encounter, brass dragons love to talk.
Yes,
a lot.
They do. And that was. Go ahead.
I just want to point out, you really put the Dungeons and Dragons in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, that's how I roll.
And it's very, not sure if it was intentional, but you're quite literally delving into a dungeon and talking to a dragon.
That was certainly a happy accident.
I love it.
Gonna be honest.
I found it interesting that the group check was a wisdom persuasion check, which is normally a charisma-based skill, and which people do forget that you can change which stats being used for some skills if the situation calls for it.
I'm gonna
being strength for intimidation.
I'm gonna be straight off the back. That's certainly supposed to be that normally is charisma. I chose wisdom because it's supposed to be them basing it off of gossip knowledge and stuff. I don't know if I picked the right. I think that was the right check to pick.
Well, I could see that because it's not necessarily like you're not trying to recall the information necessarily. You're trying to recall it in a way that the dragon will be appeased with, I think is what the wisdom part would that be.
Yeah. And I'm not at all trying to cover my tracks as making a typo at all.
Because, like, I think wisdom has, like, what is the wisdom stuff? Wisdom has, like, insight and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're trying to appeal to this dragon. Not by how clever your words are necessarily, but, like, trying to get the right response out of them, which would make sense for me. So I could see it being
originally it was they were during the investigation in the town they would get these little tidbits and recall the things that they observed. You can all like I said, charisma is probably the more correct one, but in my mind I was thinking, well, they went through all this investigation, they talked to all these people, they probably learned some gossip. So that's the one I want to use. If a character specifically says it, then you grant them advantage on the check.
I could also see intelligence being used here.
Yeah, it's
just for recalling information.
My interpretation when I read the line of wisdom persuasion was you're trying to appeal to the dragon's common sense.
That's a really good one. I'm going to go with that. That's really good. That's better. I like that.
Also, this is a even though this may have been wasn't a mistake.
I don't make mistakes.
We can I do like what Ian said earlier, which was the immediate thing, which was D&D doesn't always have to be
Right.
with like for instance intimidation. Like you can I don't know. You could say some intimidating things, but a barbarian ripping a door off its hinges with just one hand is also very intimidating.
Which would be a strength check, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Overall, I thought this was different. I built it based on the regional effects of the brass dragon, and that's where all the clues came from. And I think it makes for, well, yeah, I was reading through. I was like, how can I build a good counter around dragons? But one that isn't necessarily something that's going to lead to a fight, right? Because I didn't want the I don't know if you know, but the brass dragons aren't bad dragons. They're one of the lawful good ones, I think. But as a dragon burrowing, she may not be aware of a town is trembling and collapsing underneath her or above her. So all of this danger is from something that's not even really aware that it's doing it. I mean, I knock over an anthill. I don't really think about it. I don't even notice it. That's kind of what I was going on in my mind in making this encounter. And I think it can also make a potential ally for the players. So, all right. That'll do it for our encounter of the podcast, Tunnels and Towns. Ian, would you like to tell about our magic item that came from Deep Magic?
Our magic item today from Deep Magic is the Ruby Elixir. It is a legendary potion. This vermilion elixir neutralizes all magical and non-magical diseases and poisons, all curses of 8th level or lower, and all exhaustion effects, as well as restoring hit points as a superior healing potion. If this elixir is poured over a corpse that has been dead for no more than a year, it restores the creature to life as a resurrection spell, even if the corpse could not normally be resurrected. Ingredients include the mixture of the pure cinnabar, blood of a slain dragon of at least adult age, and the hearts of 6 celestial tigers willingly donated to the Alcamancer. I'm curious how you get to willingly his heart.
6 celestial tigers?
Yeah, so
oh my!
I was actually
I didn't know those existed.
Honestly, I had already written a magical item for this, but when I picked the Alcamancer and I saw this, I was so intrigued by the ingredients included.
Yeah.
Because guess what that means? The Alcamancer has to find those things. Yes, I'm not talking like spell components or something you're going to do all the time. You're talking about a legendary elixir that can get rid of pretty much everything and bring back people who shouldn't be dead or shouldn't be able to come back. That to me is, how can we make this a quest hook? You know, this person is dead, we got to resurrect them. Or you have that one potion for that one moment that you absolutely need to save somebody. Whether it's a king, whether it's a player, character, whatever it is. You can do this. I'm going to let you do it. But you're going to have to get the blood of a slain dragon. That's at least of an age of an adult. You're going to have to get the hearts of 6 celestial tigers. Where do you even find that, right?
Yeah, I gotta go to like Elysium and go find some fucking tigers? Are
Pretty
you
much.
shitting me? Like, I gotta go up there. I'm just gonna look at him like, oh no, please don't eat me.
But did you see the last part? It says it has to be willingly donated. So does that tiger have to, you have to convince it to let it sacrifice itself for you?
It has multiple hearts somehow, I guess. But still, even then, like...
Yeah. I thought it was awesome.
No, that is fucking sick.
That is so cool. And it makes me now want to include ingredients in every little potion that I make. Overall, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's 6 celestial tigers.
Wait,
I'm still hung up on that. I'm just like, how am I gonna go up to heaven and be like, oh, there's some tigers here. I hope they're not.
Can I have your hearts?
Yeah. Can you guys donate your hearts for to bring back some guy on the mortal plane? Like,
they grow back? Do they have more than one? I have questions here.
What?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be answered, but we can't get there right now.
Right. Anyways, I thought this was really cool, and like I said, I was really taken aback by the ingredients, so I wanted to include that. So
absolutely, that was awesome.
There's a lot of cool shit like that in Deep Magic. That'll do it for our magic item, the Ruby Elixir. Austin, would you like to tell us about our Dungeon Master tip?
Absolutely. So the Dungeon Master tip today is bribe immoral villagers and friends to betray PCs. So, having
Justin's an
a
asshole.
yeah, clearly saw where this one was going apparently. Having a big bad villain guy is always fun and exciting. But they aren't the only threat in town. Characters in the world can get desperate, greedy, or some combination of both. Because of this, their service is often cheap, whether it's gathering information from tavern discussions, stealing a critical piece of their property left behind at the inn during adventure, or sabotaging their goals with false information and misdirection. Regardless of the tactic used, it can be a memorable experience to find out what they've been betrayed by simple commoners. Whether it's to stall the characters, lead them down the wrong path, or just cause a simple inconvenience. Simple villagers and the PC's friends all have a price, and sometimes even the PCs.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm
What do you
just
guys?
saying.
What do you guys think about this?
Definitely, like, I mean, I kind of felt that in Baldur's Gate, where like everything kind of felt like, uh, everything. I mean, Baldur's Gate's clearly bad though, but this
Yeah.
could be like even something like Waterdeep, right? A very clearly orderly city, but there's still some people there who are like, hey, like if someone from like high up on Xanathar's guild, for instance, came up and was like, "Hey, I need you to actually just screw with this group of people over there. Tell them to go left instead of right." Okay.
What do you think,
Like,
Ian?
There's so many things you can do with this. The first thing that came to mind was bribing a bartender to poison the adventurer's drinks.
oh, so good. Classic.
Do not be surprised if that is in fact not the next encounter idea, because I love that.
That's
That is
such
awesome.
a classic. It's a classic, but it's so good. Because like you're
Yep.
just like everyone loves the bartender. You can't not love the bartender.
Yep.
Ah,
It just turns out that he was paid a lot.
Way
paid
more.
handsomely. Yeah.
I really like that. The bartender, you could even go with somebody like the minstrel who's singing and unsuspectingly. Oh my gosh. What
Bribe
if
minstrel spreading rumors about the players that aren't real.
yeah, what if you went to a temple for healing and they poisoned you?
Yep.
That's a
The
good one.
temple's in disrepair. They can't afford to fix anything. Their tithes have been short for years. Everything's crumbling apart. And here comes this guy that says, "Is the life of one worth the life of many? I can ensure your temple is restored to its former glory. I'll repair it all. I'll pay for it all and ensure that you and the those that live here, the children, the orphans, whatever, are taken care of for years to come. All you have to do is when this group of adventure, the Crimson Exiles, show up in town and seek aid, you administer this. I'm not going
It's
to tell
just
you what's in it. Put it in their medicine, and you will be taken care of for all the rest of your life, as well as those that you can help." Imagine how many more people you could help with this treasure trove of loot. This 1,000, diamond gold piece. 1,000 gold piece diamond.
I love the idea that they don't even have to tell them what it is because
Yes.
they know they're going to do it, and that's and it eases their consciousness because they're like, oh, maybe it won't kill them.
Like, could you imagine as a player waking up to a nun standing over top of you with a dagger? Or maybe you wake
Yeah.
up because she already stabbed you.
Yep.
And it doesn't
didn't
hurt
pass
that bad
that.
because you're a big strong adventurer, so you get a dagger in the shoulder, you just pull it out, but then you start to go numb and your vision blurs and you can't move. Oh
God.
man.
That'd be so good. I love like really down to earth adventures too, like that, where it's all like urban setting and there's a lot of like subterfuge and whatnot.
Right.
Those are so good.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yep.
I mean, I assume we're probably gonna be doing that in Ravnica if we do that.
That's
but
the plan.
that's gonna be cool.
All right, I think that'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip.
Bribe immoral villagers and friends to betray the PCs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our player
Okay.
tip of the podcast is
Don't
don't be a dick.
We're gonna give it a shot every time.
I know. Role playing a
Good,
tiefling. Every tiefling descends from aristocracy. When the humans of Baal to Wrath damn themselves with the devil's bargain, Only the heads of noble houses bound their families to hell. The common people retained their humanity. No one in Baal Turath who bore horns and a tail did not in some way relate to those who signed the original pacts. Most tieflings alive cannot accurately trace their ancestry to a particular house. However, some tieflings actively seek the truth of their past, and few among them find it. Being able to claim descent from a noble house can be a proud and powerful moment for any tiefling. Storytellers weave tales of terror about the noble tiefling houses. Is yours a descendant of Archazriel, the Destroyer, Kalir, the House of Blood, or from Dragu's House of Love? Whichever part of your ancestry is revealed, it is likely to make for a fantastic self journey to unlock.
Yep.
I like that a lot.
What do you guys think?
I think it's pretty cool because honestly, it is kind of hard to play a tiefling because you are.
Can be.
There's, I mean, obviously it depends on the setting, of course, too. But so, for instance, when you're an Avernus, you're kind of almost blend in a
Blend
little.
in.
Yeah. But in in modern society or in the societies, of course, like for instance, Waterdeep, it people are gonna look at you real weird, and you might even have some stuff that isn't actively available for you. So when you do get this idea that you have found where you came from, and you can say that this is what you are from,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that could change a lot of things, especially if you have like an insignia or something.
Right. I like it.
So yeah.
What about you, Ian?
There's definitely a lot of role-playing hooks that you can pull from this if you try to pursue it, and many events that can be triggered by this that can affect not just you but the party members as well.
Yes.
And who knows where those threads are going to lead when you tug at them.
Yeah,
Since demons are involved, well, devils, I guess, actually, that could trigger up some not so fun stuff.
Yeah.
That would be so interesting to like. What if the original noble is still alive?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they traded, their ancestry, but for immortality or something. See, that's the thing. Like, all because you decided to be a tiefling and you found these little threads that eventually led to a web, and you found where the originator is. What if they're still alive? What happens then?
That is
It's
cool,
like that.
man. That is really
It's
cool. I like that.
like, and I'm sure the DM would probably be like, "Oh shit, I didn't have any idea about any of this shit happening. He kind of really went down through it." There's this. Sorry, town's on fire, but also my family is here.
To me, this is one of the coolest things about being a tiefling is the heritage that comes with the lore of how they were created.
Yes.
And it's something that I don't think gets explored a lot. So if a player approached this with me, I would certainly find a way to include it.
It's just kind of hard to because it has so much like baggage with it already, right? Because
I agree with that.
there's, you have an entire noble house to think about now as a DM. That sounds so much work. I can't even fathom that. Like,
fortunately, a lot of that stuff you can find in older text that's probably written somewhere. If not, you can make it up.
And I mean, yeah, that works too.
What I think would be really cool is if if a player said, "Hey, I want to do this," I would take all the stuff that made the player, and make sure the house was not part of that. It would be the opposite. And this person's heritage comes from somebody that betrayed that house because they didn't seem the same. The first person I'm thinking of is in the Drit series. Zachnafane is like that. Him and Dritz both. They steer away from the traditional.
What their races are often derived as. Yeah.
And so when Dritz has a kid, and when his kid has a kid, and his kid has a kid, and if all that continues on like it did from Zachnafane to Dritz, does that person later come back to learn that, oh, I'm tracing my lineage to find out my origins in my Drow ancestry, and it turns out the reason I'm different from them is because this lineage of this legendary warrior who was one of the first to leave, his kind. That would just be so engaging and so much fun, I think, as a player, unfolding and unlocking all that.
I agree as well.
So, I think that'll do it with the player tip of the podcast. Don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by role-playing that tiefling like a boss.
For sure.
Before we close out today, we have another gift to give away. Compliments of our boy, Jeff Stevens. Ian?
Alright. A masked menace terrifies the region. The adventurers stumble into her scheme. The kidnapping of a famous performer known as Devin Artis. And our winner today is R19. That's what I'm going with.
Ferrari. It could be Ferrari.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Works out.
Our Ferrari 19. Congratulations. Woo! Yay.
You did it.
If you did not win, no problem. Crit Academy is here. And you can go to critacademy.com/Jeff Stevens for even more fat loots.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make sure to leave him a review. Yeah. He loves that stuff. Please join us on our next episode. We have episode 200. Oh, I'm so excited.
I can't even believe it.
I'm super excited. My wife didn't think I'd get past 2 episodes. Here we are at 200. Booyah.
198 later.
Yeah, right? I'm really excited. We want you guys to come and join us. Don't miss out on this one. Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on the 13th of December. Please come join us. We are going to be talking... We're going to build a dungeon together. We're going to take submissions from the audience. We're going to go through a list of questions. We're going to build a dungeon. And then when we're done, I'm going to write it up and then make it free available. So I'm really excited. I'm not promising how long that'll take me because I'm busy, but I'm going to make it happen. So I'm super excited for that. And I hope you guys will join us. Tell all your friends, come help build a community dungeon. I want everyone's inspiration and ideas. So...
Do I usually take this?
I think you do.
If you enjoy the show and want to support us, visit us at critacademy.com. Follow us on all social media and leave us a review. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Insta, we're everywhere.
Please go subscribe to our YouTube. We're only 3 away from 500. I'm trying to get to 1,000. I'm trying to get to 1,000 before Christmas, but I don't think it's going to happen. I bet if everyone that's listening to this, if you're listening to this right now and you haven't subscribed to us, please go do so.
Go to YouTube, click subscribe, hit the bell. There's the subscribe button.
Yes. I just updated all that and it looks new now. So, and Ian's been kicking ass on the UTT segment, so kudos to you.
This week anyway.
All right. I am your host, Total Dimas.
Your co-host Ian.
And I'm your co-host Austin. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.